As a child, floral gems tasted like the smell of washing up liquid. I remember getting some funny looks on telling the other children in my class this, but then my mum often reminds me of the time I came in with soil around my mouth, announcing that worms tasted like bacon. These are vivid, lasting memories of mine, and I know I'm not alone when I say the title out loud. Not just smells either. We've all had that moment when driving along, a song's come on the radio, and it reminds us of a holiday perhaps, a time of our careers or of time spent with an old flame. Flames of a fire even, the smell of charcoal and wood, the crackling and popping sounds can spark waves of nostalgia of bonfire nights, camping and other childhood memories. The same applies with fear. I for one am wary of Alsatians, and the sight of their specific features and markings puts me at a level of alert. No other dogs have that effect on me. Perhaps vivid memories of Doug, age 14, trapped in a kitchen with two such dogs, and the subsequent replacement of a pair of jeans and having to alternate my weight when sitting for a good while has something to do with it. I was in the kitchen lawfully, this wasn't a failed burglary attempt. So why does this happen? Well, the brain's emotional compass has a lot to do with this. Two almond-shaped parts of our brain referred to as the amygdala. Scientists found that as a sort of compass or neurological search engine behind the original social network of the brain, if you like, the amygdala played a role in human interactivity and communication. Primate brains, when examined by researchers, showed amygdala size to be positively correlated in those who have more complex social networks. Now, we all heard of fight, flight or freeze. The amygdala plays a vital role in this response when it analyses threats. Interpreting potential danger, the amygdala sends signals to the hypothalamus, the brain's central command post. The fight or flight response was first described in the 1920s by Walter Cannon. Cannon realised that a chain of rapidly occurring reactions inside the body helped mobilise the body's resources to deal with threatening circumstances. Neil Slade, neurologist and author of Tickle Your Amygdala, puts it like this: the amygdala manages the 4 F's of human behaviour: feeding, fleeing, fighting, and reproduction. Abuse also damages the amygdala. These almond-shaped cluster of nuclei enable us to respond quickly to danger, step out the way of a swerving car, for example. Repeated abuse can cause the amygdala to signal danger even when there's no apparent threat. Dr. Bruce Perry, a neuroscientist from the Child Trauma Academy in Houston, said, "A maladaptive amygdala makes an abused child recoil in fear at the drop of a hat." So now we know a bit about the amygdala and how a person's previous experiences can affect their future reactions on a chemical and neural level. How then about restraint, physical intervention, or even simply holding and handling those who've suffered some kind of trauma previously? Are the techniques that you're being shown and you're using appropriate? A child or vulnerable adult in your care who had previously been subjected to a rape, incidents of sexual abuse, or who had suffered physical abuse of some type perhaps, how would they react to being held in one of these so-called therapeutic holds that I've come across, one of these hugs or embraces? Well, the person being held could become upset and try to struggle. And as research shows us, aside from the risk of injury, prolonged struggling increases the risk of positional asphyxia. The person having to relive this trauma could also become very upset or traumatised by what's happening. And as those of you who've read my previous posts on human rights will remember, this could breach Article 3. Yes, it could be torture. This absolute right is the article concerned with the prohibition of torture, inhumane and degrading treatment. And it states the following: treatment that arouses in the victim a feeling of fear, anguish and inferiority, capable of humiliating and debasing the victim and possibly breaking his or her physical or moral resistance. The psychological effects of restraint were prevalent in the case of Adam Rickwood, the 12-year-old boy who was found dead by hanging in his bed space after he was restrained and where a nose distraction strike was used. Adam was restrained after refusing to move from the table he was sitting at with friends. Causing somebody to relive a childhood trauma, making them feel humiliated or scared, should never be the purpose of an intervention. And if we consider these could be side effects, then perhaps sometimes we must think proportionately. With certain people or in certain circumstances, the psychological effects of a physical intervention could far outweigh the alternatives. Who would be liable for this? Well, not these ill-informed training providers, it would be the organisation that commissioned them. Remember, schools, care homes, hospitals, amongst others, have a non-delegable duty of care.